All right, this is how I put together a controller. It's somewhat preference based in regards to certain things, but for the most part, it is the same. Now, I'm using parts that I have available. So instead of a rocker bowl, for example, I'm using a steel bowl, steel 664 bowl, but all of the principles are the same. I'm also using a Tao V4. However, this one is messed up and out of spec, so I won't be doing any benches or anything. This is just purely for example. So if you're just fresh getting like your stick and stuff, I would suggest at least putting the cap in first. It makes assembling the module way easier. I have a screw that you will not have, but it's still the same principle. So it doesn't even need to be tight, it just needs to be on. If you're taking your controller apart, I would recommend that you somehow remember the orientation the stick was in. Now I usually run a rubber cap and I just will cut it to tell me which orientation it is, and then I just replace the rubber cap after I re-lube. For removing lube that is already on there, I just use a Q-tip. I prefer one that's not super soft because the hairs can be very annoying. But basically, I just take it along everywhere that there's lube until there effectively isn't much left. Okay. So, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get encoder wheels onto the bowl housing. This step is not necessary. I feel like it is very good, especially on rocker housings, though, is lubing the encoder wheels. If you have ever had a controller where you shook it around and neutral would move around a lot, or it wouldn't always go back to neutral, this can help a lot. So, I'm not using super lube, which most people do use, but it's the same concept. So I get a little bit on the Q-tip. I take my first encoder wheel and I start on the back. I start back here. And just very lightly on right there. I then usually will use the back part, get a little bit of the excess off. Now it looks like that I have a hair, so we're gonna bail on that. Just get a little bit more. This part's way harder. You really do not want to get lube on the gears themselves or really anywhere else. You want it to only be on the peg. And sorry, the focus is going to be bad, but nothing I can do. But yeah, slight lube. And then you just slide it down. Gears outward, or the gear teeth, and you carefully move this apart. I think on the rocker housings it's way more stiff. Don't go like super far, but like just enough to be able to get it in. They can kind of be a bitch to get out. You want to move it as little as possible and then slide it up, but that's how you get it in. I'm not going to lube this one because I just showed you how to do it and I'm not actually fully building this module, so we'll just put it in. After you put it in, it's pretty important, if you're lubing, to make sure that there is no lube elsewhere, especially after you spin it. And if there is, or if you want to be safe, like I can see, I don't think you can see, well, you can a little bit there. There's a little bit in those right there. So I just make sure that it's all gone. Just do that, and we're good. Lower housing, just slot it right in. Boom. Now I put the board in so I don't forget later. That's in. Okay. Now we are going to lube the bowl and the housing. So I get a decent amount on the toothpick and I just put it in the bowl and I move it around. The amount of lube that you use is kind of preference. I think that I use way more than most people. You basically want a thin layer covering most of the parts that are going to be in direct wear, but like that's good for me. If you have excess, you can push it or pick it back up and put it into where the gears sit. If not, just get some more lube. Just put a tiny bit where they rest, like so. Okay, and now we are on to the actual gear, and I have 2 small gears instead of a small gear and a long gear. Okay, I have an N64 gears V4. I don't recommend these gears. If you are going to use them, only use the long gear. The short gears are awful, but for demonstration purposes, this is fine. So, what I like to do, get some more lubricant, is basically every part of this bridge, this arc, I put lube. So, all on this side, all on this side, focus is very hard, but yeah, you just cover that. Whoa. Then we get some more, put it on the inside slot, on both sides. I don't know how much a lot of this actually does matter, but I do it anyway. Basically, I just worry that there's going to be stuff touching other stuff, and we don't want friction causing wear. And then I do it on the bottom here. And this has been my lubricant method for years and years and years, and I've had no problem. Okay. Now, technically, because we put lube on the housing already, we don't need to in these little like slots here. If we can focus, please. Thank you. But I still do anyway. Make sure that there's nothing in the teeth or on the sides. Now we take the long gear and I put it in like so. So horizontally. Done. That's in there. Okay. Next step. Get ready. I need a screwdriver to get this screw out. Okay, it's out. Now, I'm going to lube the stick first. So the important places, make sure there's no hair. This sucks if you have dogs. It's in this slot. Just put a little bit in there. Do it on the other side. And then this whole like bottom part, everything below the ball. Especially up on the upper side of the hammer. Please focus, please. Like right there on both sides. And I'll explain why in a sec. But basically I just do a light coating of everything down here. You technically don't need to lube the very, very bottom because we already lubed the bowl. But I don't know, I do it anyway. Okay, so we have that lubed. Now we'll put it through the gate and we can let it just sit. Next is the spring. You want the smaller side. So this is like less narrow, this is wider out. You want the narrow side touching the gate. Now, here's a little tip. There's a little groove right there. Your spring orientation does matter. It impacts angles and it impacts feel. Me, I almost always put it in and then rotate it until it gets caught on that little lip. That way I know I'm always putting the spring in the exact same way. Get a little bit of hair. I don't have a washer. Let me go grab a washer. Okay, I have a washer now. Put the washer on top. It can be good to try to have the stick facing horizontally like this. Short gear. Now this is the gear that wears the most, and that's because one, there's less surface area than the long gear, and two, this is also where the bottom of the stick, that like Okay, if I put it on, right, just as a test fit, you can see where it's going to be making contact. It's constantly going to be in there. So that's where the most of the wear is. And you can kind of get a rough idea on the condition of a gear based off of around here and around right here. So you can kind of see this gear's a little bit worn. You can see a visual difference. This might be the gear that I actually polished, but if it's messed up, it's going to be like jagged. You're going to see a lot of white plastic and stuff. That means that it's pretty worn. But if it is worn a little bit, lubricant often makes it fine, at least for a while. So we are going to do the same thing. That's way too much. Focus. Thank you. A thin layer. This isn't very thin. But in the slot. Where the gears rest. And I also do the bottom side, although I don't know how much that actually matters. Let's get the hair out of there. Okay. So a thin layer for the most part. Now, we slide it down and then we spin it. So we want the teeth to be facing towards this part of the gate or this part of the gear being aligned with this. And now we can put it together. Now, what I do is I hold this like actually physically up. You want to make sure that this is centered or pretty centered. So that's much better. You make sure this gear is flat. And you want to go straight down. And if it's right, it'll all click together. Wow, that feels really good, actually. Probably because the nib is very loose. Okay. Next is screwing it together. This kind of sucks. I don't know if the screws included are going to be magnetic. Mine are not. So it's kind of a pain. I drop the screw in. And tighten. Now, something to be aware about, especially with the rocker gate, is that it is very susceptible to being moved over. So this will impact values, and you can kind of use this to like kind of calibrate too. So let's say you put it together and you have right 90 and left 80. That's an extreme example. But most of the time what you'll find is if you take it back apart and you run your fingertip from one to the other, you'll find that it gets caught. Like right here, it's getting caught a little bit, as opposed to this side, it actually gets caught even more. But for example, with the previous one, with 90 right, 80 left, chances are it's going to get caught on this side and not on this side. It's going to be smooth. So if you need to move your angles over or you're adjusting that, you can hold it and push it in one direction. So if I need more range on the left side, I'm pushing it right. So I have that little, I get caught. And you hold that and then you screw it together like that. You also don't want it to be like fully tightened usually. Usually you'll fully tighten it and then you might back off just a little. As long as like when you push this down, it doesn't like visibly move or it doesn't raise up when you let go, you're good. Okay, so fully put together. Cool. Now you can put it back together or whatever, you can test it. What's nice about the clear ones is you can see if the spring has gone over the lip or if it goes underneath itself. Either which is bad, especially if it goes underneath itself. It can be resting on it and it'll be fine, most likely. But if the spring has gone underneath the other part, that's really bad and can cause clicking and such. But okay, let's say that you've put it together. Now you can take the screw off, and now you can adjust the nib. Now included is like a small Allen wrench. I have an actual driver. And basically, if you go clockwise, you tighten the stick. And if you go counterclockwise, you loosen it. And this isn't like the V3, where the V3 was you could feel resistance in left and right if it wasn't tight enough. Like there would be a bump. Like you'd go a little bit and then it would like get caught and then you would go further. So you had to tighten it to a certain degree, and that window was very, very small. If you tightened it a little bit further than that, then the stick would have problems going back to neutral like this. What's nice about the V4 is that you can adjust it to your liking for the most part. You can run it really, 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 really loose if you wanted to. Just know that the looser that you run it, the more Z-play there will be. And what that is Z-play will be very evident in if you're able to go into notch and push it even further. Like I think you can see it a little bit, it's sliding. Most sticks do that. OEM sticks do that. Most sticks that you can't adjust the nib do that. That's normal. Most people are perfectly fine with that. Me personally, I absolutely despise the feeling, so I tighten it until that completely goes away and I don't have that anymore. Tightening it and loosening it can adjust the values. If you loosen it more, you're going to have lower values, like lower 80s. If you tighten it more, you're going to get into upper 80s, lower 90s. That can affect your diagonals, it can affect everything, but it's all preference. So whatever you want is what you should do. Cool.